Well, good morning, and welcome to all of you. Duke sends his best. He can't wait to get back. He's doing fabulously. So he thanks you for all of your prayers. There was this woman who was having trouble seeing, and she was an artist, and she was losing her sight. And so she went to this optometrist who was one of the best in the world. She was assured by friends that if anybody could restore her sight, he could. And so, I'm not sure if she was an optometrist or ophthalmologist, I get them confused, but the one that really does all the major work with eyes. So she goes to this doctor, and he says, I think I can help you, but it's going to take some time. And so in time, he was able to restore her sight. She couldn't believe it. And so she wanted to pay him, but he wouldn't accept any pay. So she said, well, how about I do a mural for your new office wall? He said, great. She says, well, I don't want to give you any ideas, but I have a great idea if you'll trust me. He says, sure. So the day came when she had finished the mural and she was having a huge presentation, a press briefing, to unveil the mural of this doctor's office. She couldn't wait for him to see it. So as the press gathered and some of his clients and others came, they took away the drape, and you see this big, huge eyeball on his wall, not what he expected. And one of the journalists went over and asked him, so what do you think of your mural? I mean, it's beautiful. What do you think of this? It really underscores what you do for a living. He said, yes, and thank God I'm not a proctologist. So if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it later. Not what you want to see on the wall of your doctor's office. So I want to talk to you today about vision, 2020 vision. And I want to start by asking you a question. Do you have 2020 vision? Now, I'm not talking about the vision that you can see with. A few years ago, I had LASIK surgery because when I became a minister, I got tired of looking over my glasses or trying to see through my bifocals, looking down to see what I was reading, and then looking up to see all of you through the bifocals, and it was just a fiasco. So I decided to have LASIK surgery. And I just knew I would have 20/20 vision. Well, it's about 20/15. I can see all of you very well. And I can read very well as long as the light is good. If it's low light, I have to have my readers on. But at least I don't have to wear the bifocals anymore. But I can remember when I first got glasses. I wanted glasses so bad. Everybody I knew who was smart wore glasses. And I was in high school. The teacher wore glasses. My best friends who were the honor students. I was an honor student, but not 4.0 like they were. They had glasses. I figured that was the key. If you had glasses, you'd be smarter. Most, we see those old pictures of librarians with the big glasses on because they were smart. So I wanted to be smarter, so I had to have glasses. So I was 21, my first job. And I told my mother, I'm going to get glasses. She says, you don't even need glasses. What? I want to get glasses. So I go to this doctor, and he tests my vision and says, well, yeah, and they probably had no prescription in them, but I thought they did. So they must have had something, because when I walked out of the doctor's office with my new glasses on, I fell off the curb. And I realized that you have to learn how to see 20/20. It's just not automatic. You don't just get 20/20 vision. So I'm using this as a metaphor for this year of 2020, because we need to start seeing better. That song, can you hear me? That song is about seeing beyond our little circumference of the world. It's about looking beyond ourselves. What is it that I am to contribute to this world? Everett Hale was a New Thought minister. He was a Unitarian minister in the 1800s. And he coined the phrase that I really love, I am one. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And he goes on to say something like, let me not allow the some things that I cannot do prevent me from doing the some things that I can. So today, this afternoon, we're going to meet On Riggs. Is On here? On, can you come down from just a minute? Um, you heard about courageous conversations. And this afternoon, we're going to meet someone who has great courage, who has 20/20 vision, even without her glasses, right? So, honor Ann. It's spelled A-Y-N. I've been saying.
Yeah, and it's, I was born that way. Although I was named after technically a tightened-up conservative thought, but my parents were civil rights workers, and they've always pronounced it Ann.
Okay, Ann. I'm that way. Last week I talked about all my confusing names, so I understand that. But Ann Riggs has done something unique to show that she has 20/20 vision outside of her realm of consciousness. It was 2006, Ann?
2006.
When she started Slave Chocolate. Now, how many of you love a good chocolate? Yeah, and Ann did too, and so do I. And then she discovered how these chocolates are made. And so this afternoon, we're going to talk about this vision that we can have to make a difference in the world. Thank you, Ann. You don't have to stay standing. She's going to share with us how she started this and how we can go beyond our 2015 and our 15-15 and whatever our vision is, and we can see 2020. We can make a difference by seeing things the way they really are in the future for our children. So let me tell you a little bit about what Ann has done. In 2016, Ann discovered that children were being forced into labor in Ghana and South Africa for the cocoa industry. Now, the cocoa farms were not native to those parts of the world, so they would bring the seeds over from South America and also destroy some of the farmland as they planted them. And these young people, 5 to 15 years old, are working in these cocoa farms with machetes, chopping through the hard hulls. Can you imagine a 5-year-old with a machete? Or a 10-year-old with a machete, or a 15-year-old? They're living in some very unfortunate, uninhabitable conditions. And Ann discovered all this. Now, what does this have to do with Ann? She lives here in the United States. It's not in her backyard. It's not happened around her as far as she can tell. But she had 20/20 vision. She could see beyond the appearance of things right here where we are. And when Duke introduced me and Christine Garvey to Ann to tell us about this, the first thought was this would be a courageous conversation because it's going to force us out of our comfort zones. Valentine's Day is coming up. The chocolate industry in the United States is $71 billion, and we contribute to that. Valentine's Day just beat out Halloween for the largest chocolate sales. And then we have Easter and Christmas and Mother's Day, and other times we give chocolates. And some of the companies that we're buying from are the ones that are employing child labor in these countries that I just mentioned. So what's that have to do with us? It's about awareness, it's about consciousness. So when Ann shared this, I was blown away because she's not an activist, she's not in any kind of an organization. She calls herself a rogue activist, meaning her eyes were open to something that she was not aware of before, and so she decided to do something. When you see something, do something. When you have 20/20 vision, you see things differently. You see clearly, you see more, you can do something. And so Ann took it upon herself to be a one-woman army, to go up against the major chocolate companies. I'm talking Godiva, Hershey, Nestle, Mars. So after talking with Ann, I became more conscious, because once you know something, you have to do something. I happened to be in Aldi's not long after that, and I love chocolate, so I was looking for something different, and I just picked up this chocolate candy bar and purchased it. Didn't pay attention to it. Usually I just tear open a wrapper, and I'm not satisfied till the whole thing is gone. And then I want more. But this time I decided to look at the wrapper, and it had a label on it called Fair Trade. And I remember what Ann told us. She told us that that label means that they are working with the farmers in those countries and not bringing children into the labor market. Some of the children that have been rescued, if you Google slave labor, you'll find some of those children that have been rescued have reported being locked in sheds, being stripped naked, and beaten. Now, sometimes under false pretenses, their families are told that because they're poor and they're starving, we're going to take your child, they're going to work on this farm, and then we're going to bring them back, and you're going to have money, instead of employing the farmers. And many of them never see their children again. And of course, as the slave market goes, many people are selling the children. So when you know something and when you see something, you have to do something. When your vision changes, you see things differently. And I want to talk to you today about having a 2020 vision for this new year. So on the front of your bulletin, the scripture that popped out at me when I first thought about this message is from Proverbs, the 29th chapter, the 18th verse. No vision and a people perish, but happy are they who keep the law. Now there is a law that's on the books, and it's been on for 17 years, and it's been agreed to in Congress that these major corporations would stop dealing in the child labor. But they haven't really done it in 17 years because the profit margin is so large. And we're helping. So I would invite you to look for that fair trade label when you're out shopping for chocolate. And I invite you to open your eyes to the truth. So that gets into Unity's fifth principle. The fifth principle is in relation to the scripture that says you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And I go on to say that knowing the truth and practicing the truth will help you to help other people be free. So let's break this down. What does this mean to know the truth? Now, years ago, Rocco Errico was here at this church, and he was giving us a lesson on the Aramaic interpretations of Scripture, how they went from Aramaic to Latin to Greek to English and so forth. And finally, when they get to our language, they're kind of distorted. And we know that the Scriptures in the Gospels are in metaphors. They have different meanings than the exact words portray. So let's look at what knowing the truth is all about in your bulletin. We say that knowing it is not enough. So we're talking about the truth principles. The four principles preceding this are that there's one God everywhere and in everything. All power, all knowing, everywhere present. One God. The second principle is that you and I are made in the image and likeness of God, and therefore we are inherently good. The third principle is that we connect with God through our prayers and through meditation. And the fourth principle is through our thoughts, words, and actions, we create our reality. So the fifth principle is sort of like the 11th commandment that Jesus gave us, that if you love enough, you won't break any of the other commandments. So the fifth unity principle that the Fillmores laid out is that if you know the truth and you practice the truth, all those other principles will fall into place. So let's get into it. The first thing you want to know about this knowing the truth and practicing truth, walking your talk, is that we cannot not live these laws. They apply to everyone. We cannot not just live them. They are always present. They are part of you. So you have to live them. They apply all the time, everywhere, even across the seas in places we've never been, and things we only read about or hear about through activists like Ann Riggs. The second explanation is that living the truth means that we show up in all activities of our lives. We show up in truth, in our work, in our play, in our relationships, with the consciousness that what we do and the way we behave matters. So when you go shopping for that chocolate, remember what you do. You may be one, and you may be only one. And you may not be able to do everything, but you can do something. And allow that something that you can do make a difference. Living the truth means that we do the work that's necessary to remain conscious and aware of our oneness. And what does that mean? When you know something, you do something. Maya Angelou says, when you learn, teach, when you get, give, when you know better, you do better. I know better now. So at Halloween, when I buy that big bag of assorted chocolates to hand out to all the trick-or-treaters, and you know that's my day, I'm going to be very conscious of what I purchase and what I give. I don't have to influence anyone else by my talk. I have to walk my talk. And now that Anne has opened my eyes to that, it forces me to take action personally. Living the truth means we recognize our divinity and act in ways that express the divinity. Now we're heading up to the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And we're celebrating that holiday in unity by being of service to the families of children who are hospitalized at Children's Mercy Hospital, led by Beverly Crone, as you just heard in the announcements. And so we're going to do something. We're not just going to say something. We're going to contribute our resources to help with that. There are 10 already signed up to show up that day to help serve and clean up. We're going to be of service, which is what the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday is all about. So how can we be of service to these children in other countries that are victims of this cocoa farm child labor? Well, there's a lot that you can do. Maybe the next time you pick up a bag of Reese's Pieces, or my favorite, the Hershey's with almonds, M&M's, Godiva, Kit Kat. Maybe you take a step back and you think about it. What am I contributing to? What is my dollar doing? And how is it serving the world? We don't always have these kinds of talks here in Unity because they kind of lean toward the political side, but I don't mean to be political. This is a human nature issue. This is a humanity issue. This is what Dr. King meant when he said in his letter from the Birmingham jail in April of 1963, when he was told he didn't belong there. He was not from Birmingham. You people don't belong here. You should go home. You're causing trouble. He said, I do belong here because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Your children are safe. Why should you worry about it? You live in a country where we don't see this happening, not in front of us anyway. But once we become aware of something, we have a responsibility. And so I invite you to think about what is mine to do to make a difference in the world. Between the Dr. King holiday and the Gandhi birthday is a season of nonviolence. And during that time, we focus a lot of our attention on what can we do to change the world. What can we do to change the world? Well, there was a mystic in 1100 who said, when I was young, I thought I could change the world. So I tried to change my family, but they wouldn't listen. And then I tried to change my community, but it couldn't hear me. I tried to change my country, but they listened not. I tried to change the world, but it wasn't possible. And now that I'm old, I realize that if I had changed myself, my family might have changed. My community would have been better. My country would have been better. And who knows, together, we could have saved the world. It begins with you. We sing it every Sunday. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Take those words seriously. Everything begins inside us. We can change the world. We can make a difference. And once we become aware of something, it's our responsibility to do something. So I invite you now to take this idea, this consciousness, as we move into meditation. What is mine to do to serve the world?